I'm Debbie Godfrey. Welcome to the Positive Parenting PEP Talks podcast.
Today's pep talk, I'd like to talk about ideas for traveling safely in the car with your kids. Many of us have encountered situations where the kids are yelling and screaming, and we've actually been in unsafe situations because we can't keep our eyes focused on the road and drive appropriately if they're fighting and yelling and causing chaos in the back seat. So one thing that I like to do is make sure I have snacks, because a lot of times when I pick the kids up from school or when we're running around, they get hungry or thirsty. So I always kept Capri Suns and some kind of little snacky food in the car, a bag of raisins or nuts or something like that, so that they always had something if they were hungry or thirsty. So that's one thing, because kids who are hungry can get out of their heads very quickly if they have low blood sugar. The other thing that I like to do is to have some fun games, especially if you're going to be in the car for a while. So there's a game where you look at license plates and look for doubles. So if there's 2 2s or 2 3s or 2 W's, and the kids love playing that game. That was always really fun. So that's a good one if you're on the freeway. And then the other thing is what to do if they're fighting in the car. Now, this is what I did early on. I had a little car, and so if they were yelling and screaming, it was very, very unsafe for me to be driving. And I needed them to be not, totally quiet, but really had to be pretty low key in order to drive effectively. And so if they started hooping and hollering and yelling in the back, I would actually pull the car over. Now, the important thing is not to threaten this, because a lot of times what parents will do is say, if you guys don't stop, I'm going to pull over. If you guys don't stop, I'm going to pull over. And it's this unfulfilled threat, and they never believe it. And so they end up just ignoring us. So you really need to actually do it in order for it to work. So one time we're driving down the freeway, and the kids were fighting in the car. And you got to make sure you have a safe place to pull over. For me, I'd rather pull off at an exit than actually pull over on the side of the freeway. And so I would just pull over. I wouldn't say anything until the kids were quiet. And as soon as they were quiet, I would say thank you, and I would continue on my way. So I don't lecture. I don't warn them ahead of time. I just pull over and stop, and I wait till they stop. One time it was really funny. My son was in the front seat with me, and the girls were in the back seat. And they were screaming, and they were fighting, and I could not think straight. And I pulled over to the side of the road. We were actually over by Target just on regular streets, not on the freeway. And so I pull over, and I'm looking down at my son who was sitting next to me, and he's looking at me, and we're just looking at each other. And the girls didn't even notice we had pulled over. It took like 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, one of them realized that we weren't moving. And she's like, hey, shut up. She's not going. And the other one's like, what? Why aren't you going? And then they both were quiet, and I just said, thank you, and I continued on my way. So it really is effective if you do it. It is not effective if you threaten and you don't do it. So make sure that you are showing them what you mean, not telling them, by actually following through and pulling over when they're not behaving appropriately in the car, and being patient. You don't want to do this if you're in a hurry to get somewhere. So if you're late to be somewhere, that would not be a good time. Make sure that you have all the time in the world that you need, so that if you do have to pull over for 5 minutes, you have the time to do that. Hope this helps with some of those car battles. Have a great day, great weekend, and happy parenting.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Positive Parenting PEP Talks podcast. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Debbie Godfrey, owner and founder of positiveparenting.com. I hope you'll go and check out my website and follow me on Instagram and let me know about what you thought about today's episode. Did you learn something new? Were you able to do something different with your children? Did you have a success story? Those are my favorite to share. Let me know. Contact me. I'd love to hear from you. And also, what future topics would you be interested in hearing about on the Positive Parenting PEP Talks podcast? Thank you so much for being here and for all of your support. Take care and happy parenting.